once again, I welcome all the learners and the students in this new session of this paper that is about community power structure. All right, we have already discussed the community in length and breadth regarding its dynamics and all. So, power structure is another one very important aspect of community dynamics. So, understanding the community power structure is essential for working in the communities so that you can understand who are at the hand, at the top, who is having all the power, who is actually holding the resources. So and then you can also resolve the conflicts easily once you know that power structure, because many time, because to get the power structure there could be the conflict would arise in the community, right? So let's start with the community power structure. So these are the some content of today's lecture. So here you are going to discuss about the nature of the power structure, then power dynamics and inequalities, types of power structure, and then power structure and social work, how the and what the social worker can do for this, and then classification of community power structure. So let's start with the introduction of this whole idea of the social structure power. So social power, that is about that what the community power or the community structure. So social power present within the community aspect. So social power is defined as the capacity to control the action of others, right? So this is what actually it's about the leadership as well. So the capacity of control something, the distribution of use of power within a community is referred to as the community power structure. So it focuses on determining who is in charge, whose choices are made, who are in the authorities, who can actually hold the thing. So this is what the power structure. So going into the community and understanding the community structure is so important. So look into this triangle. So for to understand the power structure, we have to understand who holds the resources, and definitely who holds the resources always is the knowledgeable person. So this is again aspects which talking about the leadership, and then networks. Power structure always, and the whoever holding the power is always having a good networking within that community. So these are the certain influencers and then the things which actually shape the power structure, like the leadership, organizations, social networks. So these are the different, maybe in a particular community some individuals actually holding the power, in some institution or some groups holding the power, and sometimes some kind of the system that is holding the power. So like the resources available, the civic engagement, the demographics and all. So what are these actually? The next lecture would be on the leadership in length and breadth. So that includes official or maybe the community leaders, organization that maybe they, if you take the example of rural areas, that could be the Panchayati Raj institution, or any kind of the CBOs, that is the community based organization, or maybe the self-help groups of that community. What does social networks means? That a relationship among the community members and with other kind of the resources that play interdependent to interplay to each other. So that is what the social network. Resources, that could be the financial resources, that could be any physical resources. So usually it happened in every community that few power structure or the few power holders that hold all those resources in their hand, and so the rest of the community is not having the access of those resources. So this is what is very crucial to look into that, and later on we will discuss that how we can identify this power structure, and accordingly we can use some kind of the bring some kind of the democracy in that community, or bring that kind of the situation where everyone could participate and feel comfortable. Like civic engagement is also another aspect, that level of participation in by the in community members in decision making. So that is also the civic engagement, kind of the demography of that community. About the age, race, usually it happened that upper class or upper caste in every community that holds the power. It has always been identified that sometimes the older people holds the power. In some communities you could identify that the richer people. So if the richer and then older combined together, that's definitely is actually holds the community. Definitely you see a lot of them in lot of the movies where in the rural areas, the head of the community is some elder people who's maybe the head of that community, or who is definitely a very rich kind of the people. But apart from that, there are also different sets of the power structures also available in the community, that we will discuss the types while we'll discuss about the types of power structure, that could be elitist or that could be pluralist. So we will going to discuss later on this. Let's talk about the theoretical aspect of this power structure. So, as the Walton has said, the power structure are defined as the characteristic pattern within a community whereby resources are mobilized and sanctioned, employed in making decisions. Here, power means that ability to influence others through community organizations, that is influencing the community members to act as suggested by the leaders. So whoever is the leader is having all the power structure or having the power of the community. So as the Walton's definition, if you look into that, so suggests that power structures are not random, but follow recognized pattern. But and these patterns reflect how decisions are made and how resources like such as money, information, and then any kind of the resources has been mobilized by them. He further defined that the power is not only about the influencing, but also involves the capacity to actually to ensure the rules and norms of that community. Sanctions may be formal or informal. He is having the power. Maybe if it is like politically elected power structure or the politically elected leaders, he is having all the powers and authorities of sanctioning formally, or many times the community leaders who is been considered as the leader of that community, who's having all the power in that community, they can also actually put some sanctions to the community informally. So moving ahead, like Khap Panchayat and all, you all heard about that. So that how that power there in such Khap Panchayat or any that kind of the communities which is very particular about their culture, values and norms many a times. So they are having very strong this all we feeling, and also this power structure is power is in the hand of few, which has been considered as the leaders or the local leaders of that community, and they actually put sanctions many time for them, that is formal sanction. But actually if you look from the laws of the nation, so that is mainly about the informal sanctions. So moving ahead, importance of understanding this community power dynamics. In order to develop more inclusive, effective community programs, we need to. So to understand this community power structure is very important, because you could understand who has the authority, and who contribute actually influences to the resources, ensuring equitable participation. Then if you're not aware about who has the authority, you cannot ensure the equitable participation. So when you go in a community, so these are the certain points that you have to always keep in mind. So who has the authority, whether it is elected or selected members, or it has been identified, or sometimes it's also some power is hidden, you cannot identify very easily. So you have to first is who is having the authority, and who controls influences and resources. Maybe the elected member is someone else, but authority is in the hand of others. Even you can take the example of Pati Pradhan, where the women has been selected because of the reservation of seats and all, that's all. But in many communities you found that you can easily identify in the many rural areas where the women is officially a selected Pradhan of that community, but in place of that women Pradhan, who is actually governed that area, that is her husband, or many sometime her father-in-law. So anyone, any male from that family. So this is what the who controls actually and influences resources. Maybe apparently someone else, but in deeply if you go that, you find that some other is holding the power, who is not part of the decision making process, that out to be means who are out of that whole power structure of the community. Maybe caste system is very strong in a rural community or rural community of India particularly, right? So you can easily identify that a particular group has not been taken into account, and in many of the programs and policies. I do remember once I was like working with the one SHG in a community. So in that group, there are some women from the scheduled caste been the part of that SHG, and that was 2 and 3 only, but later majority of the members were from the upper caste. So it was very difficult to organize that SHG group. So finally it was like the organization then decided to form the separate group. This is what the exclusion within a community, because it was very difficult whenever we asked for group meetings, and also few were not coming. And then when we inquired about what is the reason few are not coming, and few are rejecting to go in some places. So it's all comes as like the power structure around the caste system. Okay, so and this is also very important, how to build community power from both within and outside the community. And then you have to understand that how you can further build a power structure within a community. So after understanding all this, you will be able to ensuring equitable participation, because now you understand who is in the power, right? First thing, who is in the power, who is this, who are excluded, right? And how to include them, right? Then you will be able to understand who are excluded, who is having the power, and how to include. Then you can be easily identified how to include that excluded people, right? So let's move ahead with the same topic. So now, what are the nature of the power structure? As Floyd Under explained the nature of the power structure as like power takes many different forms and appears in wide range of combination. There are many power centers available in the community. Maybe it's not like only one or one elite group that is holding the power. There may be two and three other and one or two power centers in the community. So, and then power is also distributed, that it's like if it's like it's a flow. Power is in hand of few, it may goes to another to others. There is one theory of like circular of eliteness, that once time there's one kind of the leaders is holding the power. After some time after some times that holders or that leader has lose it some kind of the charisma and all that, another new set of the leadership has been developed in the community. So this is what power is also distributed. There are also formal and informal power available in the community. Some power structures which is very formal, like as I've said, that panchayat and panchayati raj institutions, or even in the urban areas, there are very selected or elected members of parliament and all. And then there are also informal power, or even policing is one form of the power structure in our judiciary system. And the informal power system is also available in every community, where the informal resources holds the power, and actually that impacted a lot to the community. Moving ahead, types of power structure. So there are actually two kinds of power structure has been identified in the community. One is the elitist power structure, and second one is the pluralistic power structure. Among these community studies, these two categories usually been identified, and you have to be very keen in identifying the what kind of the power structures is present in that community. So what is elitist power structure? So C. Wright Mills in his book The Power Elite 1956 described the power elite that occupy the dominant position in the in institutions. So it could be any institution, like maybe it is military, economic, political, or even the social or the society. So apart from the political, we can also, here we are more concerned about the society and community, right? So he may be the holding the power or position in those areas, in those institutions, and their decisions or lack of decisions have enormous consequences on population. Means how much they are having the power to influence or is not having the power to influence. So is a weak leader or the strong leader, that is about. So this power elite, the idea described by C. Wright Mills as a small group of people who occupy the top position in the dominant institution of the society, primarily it could be any that political, economic, and this society. In any community, the power structure is often very complex, right, and layered with various groups holding, overlapping to each other, or competing with to each other to getting the influence. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for anything looking to engage effectively or navigating with a particular community. Moving ahead, let's talk. I hope you understand this elitist power structure, where only few or maybe only one that holds the power, right, or dominant position in particular community. And then next is the pluralist power structure. So here the decision making may be done by few, but then this decision making cannot be understand except within the context of a continuous bargaining process among the elites, and also the general consensus established only through the mass approval which is had to secure. So pluralists led by Robert Dahl, as he has defined this, have challenged the main elitist contention that a society is marked by the existence of single center or political power, argued that in a society there are multiple centers of political power, none of which are completely sovereign. Means maybe the one or two are very identified power structure are identified, I mean very obvious, right? Or there may be some kind of power structure which is not identified, which is not very obvious, but this again having a lot of influence in the community, right? So sometime of the, because community has been divided into many subgroups, okay? So all these subgroups, then what happen, every subgroup may be having their own power structure. So there is a conflict between the different power structure. Maybe if I take the example of the classes on the caste within a community, so one caste system is having their own power structure, another caste is having their own power structure, having their own leaders, and overall there is in a community there is some power structure, the center of their power structure. So there is a conflict between the different caste system that they actually wanted their caste should be dominated to that community. I hope you understand the pluralist power structure as well, that how the different set of power structure is prevailed, is present in one community, and they actually compete with each other for to get the major power, position in that community. Now coming to the classification of community power structure, here this we can define as like different types, as one we have discussed the elitist power structure and pluralist power structure. So further it could be divided into pyramid, fractional, special interest, coalition and amorphous. By understanding these, you will be better to understand the different sub parts of the this elitist and then pluralist power structure. Now this is what the pyramid. So pyramid is more likely to the elitist power structure. If you look into the explanation, this power structure represents only few tightly knit people who are or group hold the power, who are sitting on top of any organization or any community, right, or any kind of the social structure, who are sitting at the very top. So this is what the pyramid structure. Definitely pyramids, by understanding the pyramids, there's a lot in down, and then it's like, so it's like power structure is going up, and at the very top there are someone who holds a major power, right? So next is about factional. In a factional, it is, if you look into the definition, it's more about the pluralist power structure. So here the factional structure indicates that there are many more than one group in the community or organizational structure who are fighting or competing to each other to take control over on available resources on decision making. This is majorly a common phenomena, that there may be the more power structure within a community and they are fighting to each other and competing to each other to get the major power. So maybe that could be the religious group in the community, then political group. That's all you see that during the elections what happened, that every power group tries to their level best, and you see that what happened in Delhi, there is example that how this there's a fight between governor and then CM of that area. So this is what that everyone tried to show their own power, and so in such power fighting and then getting into the head of to be at the head of the power and control all the power, there's always a kind of conflict within that community. Next is about special interest. Special interest, here they see that this is what the major any governing authority role, and but there are some power structure around that out of their interest. So special interest group from this type of the power structure, where out of some special interest they come together. Maybe the groups of doctors, right, or it could be of group of some activists around some, maybe so on some issues. It could be environment or anything, or the empowerment of the women. So government at the center, but there are many smaller power structures around them. On the basis of their interest, they actually hold some kind of the power structure, and trying to hold some power structure. If not, so at least they're trying. So this is all about the special interest. Next is about coalition. This form of power structure represent the coalition of many groups or association or some common agenda that they seek achieved by influencing decision making process and structure. Here you just see that overlapping. There are many power structure, but they come together for some common reason, for some some common purpose. If they come together, maybe any group of power structure that's working for the some issues like the women, some other who's working for the LGBTQ, right, some other who are working for the gender equality. So somehow their agenda is similar, so they come together and form a kind of a coalition where the power is structured, everyone is sharing the power structure. It's not that every community's head is been the part of that coalition. Or another example just come in my mind is that there are many sages from the very different communities. They come together to form a coalition and then bigger power structure where every sages head of the sages, they participate and they retain their power structure. They don't actually merge their powers to this bigger power structure, rather they hold their own power structure just to build the new set of the and then combined kind of the power structure. Okay, just move ahead. So this is all. The next one is the amorphous. Amorphous, it is a situation when no clear leadership or power group or found, or they are hidden. This often happened during the time of transition. If any community migrated or settling down in some community, some area, so still there was kind of the storming kind of the phase where the transition phase where no one aware about who is leader and who is actually having the power, because everyone is at this time is settling down, trying to settle down, and they're not aware about each other. So this is what the time when the leaders or the power structure or the quality of leadership is there, but they are not aware, and they're somehow somewhere they are is hidden maybe, but it's not appear so time that time. It may be appeared in the later part of the settlement of that community. So approaches to locating power structure. This is again very important from the social work perspective or community workers perspective, because this method look history of the community decision making, and then also we have to look into that how we can actually identify the power structure in the community before going or after going into the community. See, from the initial of this session of this lecture, I am just talking about that being a worker or the community worker, once you go in a community you have to identify the power structure. So the answer is here, how you can identify the power structure. So as Floyd Hunters has in his book Community Power Structure in the year 1953 has very beautifully explained about that. He talked about the reputational approach. It is a method of locating community elites. And this what this reputational approach is all about is about that actually Hunters what he did. Hunters identified or actually interviewed few people in the community to ask about who is in the power and who is at authority. So maybe some informal manner. It is not like that any formal kind of the questionnaire. It must not be. Maybe he could, but what my suggestion is that whenever you go in a community, informally you very easily identified the who is having the reputation and who's having that kind of position in the community, that everyone is identified. So community to find out who they thought were important leaders in a variety of fields, maybe political, economic and social. Instead of official jobs or title, this approach depends on the views and opinion of the community. So it's not about asking and looking into the position power or the community or the power related to any kind of the official jobs. Rather you have to identify the influencer of the community. Actually that is what the community holding the power structure of that community. So influencer of the community, if you try to identify, so you can go with a snowball. You have to ask to few and significant of that community, maybe the older and then younger generation of anyone that you feel that, and then after interviewing you can very easily out to that who is having the power into that community. As a social worker, whenever we go in a community, I encountered many a time that this pradhan pati pradhan concept. And usually very initially we identify that this is the, and everyone in the community they just when I asked who is the pradhan, and they have given me the name that of the male pradhan. Even the posters of those male pradhan has been so much present in the community, and you also experience such thing. But after intervening into that and after identifying so much, then I got to know that this is not pradhan but another one is the pradhan. But definitely here as a community work I cannot enter into that arena of fighting that why you are holding that power instead of your wife and all. So no, that time I just have to work with those community power and work to those with the leaders of that community, because he is that time is influencer. It's rest about that who is the official, and then official title, who is holding the official title. But here the pati pradhan is holding the influencer of that community. So that time just interact with that male as well, male pati pradhan, as well as to the definitely to the should not disrespect the actual post holders of that community, to that women. So that is what the reputational approach. I hope you understand this reputation approach to identify the main influencer, mean community power holder of that community by asking to the community, interviewing into the community. You can go with the snowball. First you start with a few, and then after interacting with many, you will be very easily understand that who is actually the power, holding the power of that community. Next is position power. This position power is mainly about that making the list of the people in organizational position. That is they are in that in that community having some kind of the official position. So this positional approach is not difficult to identify. You just go and ask who is pradhan, and then even if it is not, it is a pati pradhan. So even then you can get to know more than, and you can have the list who is holding this power in the next and the next and then next, and who are in the members of this Panchayati Raj institution. You will be very easily to get to know that who are in the hierarchy. So this is what the positional approach, and it is very easy to identify because that everything is so much prescribed, and everything is so much written into somewhere in the government law, government, it is written somewhere. It is written somewhere. It is very much identified because it is very formal positions. Next one is about the event analysis of participation. This event analysis is also very interesting. This is the third way that you can identify the power position within a community. Event analysis means you have to identify any kind of the issues and the problem has ever happened in that community. So this method is look into the history of the community, decision making to determine the power actors who actively participate in past in any kind of the community intervention or community action or community issues. So the worker use include meeting minutes, press reports, and participant interviews as source of information. Right. So this is a third type and the method through which or approach you can identify the different power structure of the community, that is through the reputation, and that is reputational approach, then positional approach, then event analysis or event analysis approach. Saul Alinsky, that later on we will discuss in length and breadth about his theoretical aspect, but here he actually given concerned about this whole type of the power structure within the community. He is mainly concerned about that participation. He actually talked about the participatory approach, that is through grassroots approach, that the power structure should not be in the hand of few, rather it has to be given voice. It should be given voice to the whose voice has not been heard. So in grassroots approach, lower level people should get decision power. So this is what the Saul Alinsky's ideas regarding the community's power structure, that where the lowest or the in the pyramid, who is in the lowest position, they have to be given some kind of the authorities to participate, so that we can be actually creating a more democratic community. Now power dynamics and inequality. So what does this mean? So control over essential resources like water, land or healthcare can also hold power and who is marginalized within a community. This is about the class, and understand this, how this this power structure actually instrumental in creating lot of inequality within a community. So class and wealth gaps. A person's socio-economic high position can lead to power disparities, giving wealthier people greater sway over local choices than to those with the lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So socioeconomic status can create imbalance in the power, where wealthier individuals have more influences over community, having more holes in the community. People living in with poverty or with limited financial resources are typically excluded from the power structure. That was what the Saul Alinsky is actually argued about and talked about, that should be grassroots approach, so that this kind of the gap should be avoided. Next is racial and gender disparities. I have already given twice and thrice the example of this Pati Pradhan, that how this gender disparities has been there, and that excluded particular gender from many power structure and many time in the power structure. Due to systematic and historical injustice, subgroups such as women and racial minorities may have less possibilities for leadership roles or access to power. You always find, this is again very important aspect, that one is gender into the community dynamics, another is minority in the community dynamics. That minority could be religious minority, that could be any caste minority. So whoever in the minority, in the lesser number, that is what the minority, in the lesser number, even the lingual minorities, whoever in whatever criteria they are in the lesser number, they are usually excluded from the power structures. Their voices is not being taken into consideration into any kind of activity or decision making. So this is again an aspect that where you have to keep your eyes open, that no one has to be excluded from the any kind of the action or the any kind of the benefits of the any programs and policies. Scheduled castes, as I've already told you, that in India they have historically been marginalized and left out of the power structure due to deep-rooted social hierarchies of the community. Youth, adolescents, and many time elderly and many time the disabled people have been excluded from any kind of the power structure or any kind of the decisional aspect. So youth many times believe that they have no experience, so why should they have to be taken into consideration? In some communities, elderly people have been excluded, that what is the point to include those people? This need more kind of the energy and enthusiasm, so these people do not. So even despite having lot of the experiences and all, so they have not been taken and they have been excluded. And people with disability, it is again continuous kind of the discrimination happen in our community, particularly community of traditional communities, where they have called with very bad names and all. Since the childhood they became, you know, their personality became likewise, and they have usually not been taken as in the part of that community, and they have been excluded from any kind of the major decision making of that community. Then power structure and then social work. This is what you can do. So empower the marginalized, that I have discussed already, that you need to understand who are in the minority, who are excluded. That could be because of the caste, that could be because of the class, that may be because of the gender reasons, maybe because of the minority status. So who are marginalized, try to empower with them. Actually, whenever you go in a community, you organize any activity, ask to every subset of that community, that every leaders or every members of every community, at least one or two has to be participated. So those 2-3 from every section of the community, if they participated, this means that whichever and whatever the programs you are going with, so it is more successful, that maximize, and that is considered to be the successful because everyone's participated into that. That is what they empower the marginalized. So you can start with the marginalized community, as Zelensky has already talked about, grassroots approach, that you should be like this. You started from the people who are excluded, and then you goes up, right? And don't those who are already in the power structure. Challenge the elites diplomatically. This is again that's why I have written in bracket, change the elites or challenge the elites, because there are the elites, there are some power structure who is holding so much power. So you should not fight with them, but you have to take it very intelligently and very diplomatically, taking their participation as well as making them aware and sensitized towards others, and making them understand that what is the value or what is the importance of this particular program for their community and how it is going to be beneficial to them, right? But you have to be very professional approach, you have to use that. Support local leadership. Again, this is what important, maybe what kind of the leaders are available in the community, you have to support those leaders. It should not means you have to go and you believe that these leaders are also important, whether it is selected or it is community leaders. So support local leadership is also important. You should not, altogether you have to develop a new kind of the leadership in the community. You can support the already present local leadership because they are the influencer of that community, because they have all the information of the community that you don't. So it's important. These three aspects you always keep in mind. So empower the marginalized, challenge the elites means diplomatically, and then support local leaders. And also through the bridging the gaps, whichever the gap has been there, that we have already discussed, the kind of the gaps is available in the community because of the power structure. Create solidarity among the marginalized, raise awareness and advocate and you became the voice of the unheard people. Address immediate needs. If you go for some kind of the larger projects, larger program, larger end, you have to look into the smaller requirements and needs of the community. If that is not fulfilled, you cannot go beyond that. So address immediate needs is also that much important, right? Okay, moving ahead. Techniques to mobilize the power. So this community organizer needs knowledge and ability to mobilize the power in the community. So like techniques, the appealing to the person with power who are related with requested help for achieving the goal, then relating the power centers directly to the goal. These are some techniques how you can mobilize the power, because here what we have says that, sorry, challenge the elite and empower the marginalized and support local leaders. So for that, you need to understand the power structure and then mobilize the power. If it is in hands of few, you have to mobilize it to others as well, right? So appealing to the person with power more intelligently, and then relating the power centers directly to the goal, whichever the power structure is available in the community related to the goal. I mean, okay, that is existing power structure, and how it is going to be channelized, how it can be used, and became a instrumental in bringing change and bringing instrumental for the development of that goal for which you are there in the community. Developing interdependence among power centers for fulfilling the goals. If there are more power centers, you have to develop the relationship between them. Formation of new groups by including members of power centers to achieve the goals. You can start with a new kind of the group where you have to take the from the minorities who have been excluded, or anyone who have been excluded from that that power structure in that community, and you also have to include who is having the power structure. So that way you can make a group of both, or develop a new set of system in the community. By using group work methods, new larger power centers can be strengthened to achieve the goal. So by using this group work, organizing a small set of the groups within a community, including everyone in the community from marginalized to from unheard to the having the power structure, you can be easily mobilize the community, right, or power structure in the community. How power became authority. So these are the 3 pointers which we take actually as a for the next session regarding the leadership. So charismatic, how power became authority. Once anyone is having the power and position, is if it is a charismatic leadership, so definitely everyone is going to hurt them, and he is develop and she will develop the kind of authority. Tradition, many community is because power is assigned to a family where the successive generations automatically inherit in such as landlord and priest. So someone's father was like is in a power position, it is going to be a kind of nepotism usually, where a lot of discussion is going on the media regarding this nepotism and all. So it happened, it's a very natural that if someone is in a position, he and she definitely wants their next generation is holding the same power. Maybe is having that charisma or not, that's another thing. Legal enactment, this refers to the prescription of power, government rationally implementing policies, division of labor, etc. on the basis of power relation in the legislative structure like PREs. This is what, through some legal enactment, some leaders or some power structure has been there. So this is all about the present present session, or I just conclude with the remarks that power dynamics within a community are not always obvious or uncomplicated. They frequently involve organization, networks, or influences and leaders, both official and informal, that affect common decision making. To effective interact with the community and promote fair participation, it is important to comprehend these dynamics. Keeping power structure in place requires strong leadership. Leaders can create conditions where individuals feel empowered or powerless. Either it is powerful or empowered. That is what the kind of leaders they are. As John Gardner once stated that leaders can create conditions where individuals feel empowered and powerless. Whether you have to create a situation where the followers or the general masses of the community either feel powerful or either feel powerless, that depending upon the kind of you share your power. Thank you so much for listening this lecture on the power structure. I hope you understand and you will be better to participate in the community, and you will be able to identify the different power structure in the community, and accordingly you will use. Thank you so much.